Alright, Chok, let's get into the heavy artillery of the civil procedure. Preliminary attachment.
This is the ultimate security move, but as the cases show, if you pull this trigger without the perfect aim, the court will blow your case wide open.
Let's look at the GMA network versus NTC and Cortero versus CA doctrines.
The ratio here is that preliminary attachment is a harsh and extraordinary remedy. It is purely statutory and must be strictly construed against the applicant. Why the strictness? Because you are seizing property before a judgment. Cortero versus CA teaches that the court acquires jurisdiction to issue the writ the moment the action is commenced, but it cannot enforce or levy that writ until it has jurisdiction over the person.
Most people cite fraud under Section 1B, but Security Bank versus Great Wall and Watercraft Venture versus Wolf set a very high bar for this.
The ratio here is that mere non-payment of a debt is not fraud. Can you explain that further?
Fraud must be dolo causante. It must occur at the inception of the contract to induce consent. Security Bank teaches that you must allege specific factual circumstances, not just legal conclusions. If you just say the defendant intended to defraud, the court will discharge the writ.
The case of Dumaranan versus Liamedo adds that even if there is a breach of contract, if that breach happened after the contract was signed, it's not fraud in contracting the debt. The binding doctrine here is that intent to defraud must be proven by concrete acts of concealment or disposal. Moving offices for business reasons is not fraudulent concealment.
What about the paperwork? Lorenzo Shipping versus Villarin is the key here. The ratio? The affidavit and the bond are jurisdictional. In Lorenzo Shipping, the court thought that the applicant must prove there is no other sufficient security for the claim. If the defendant has other properties or if the debt is already partially secured, the harsh remedy of attachment is unnecessary and improper.
Now the defense. How do you break an attachment?
You have two roads, as explained in Dumaran versus Liamedo. First, the counterbond road. You post a bond to stand in place of the property. Second, the quasial road. You prove the writ was improperly or irregularly issued. Here is a major teaching moment from Coca-Cola FEMSA versus Pacific Sugar.
So the ratio here is that the methods for discharging an attachment in Rule 57 are exclusive. In that case, the RTC allowed a standby letter of credit instead of a counter bond. The SC said no. Why? Because a letter of credit has different expiry dates and conditions that make it more onerous than a cash deposit or a surety bond. So the binding doctrine here is that the trial courts cannot freestyle or accept substitutes for a counter bond that are not expressly authorized by Rule 57.
The final takeaway? Attachment is like a scalpel. If you use it like a sledgehammer, the court will take it away from you.
Exactly. You need a specific fraud, no other security, and a perfect bond.
That's the wrap for Provisional Remedies. See you next module.